In a world that constantly demands movement, noise, and action, choosing to stay home can feel like an act of weakness, or at least that's what society wants you to think. But the truth is far more empowering. From a Stoic point of view, staying home is not a retreat from life. It is a deliberate step toward strengthening your mind, sharpening your character, and reclaiming control over your inner world. Staying home gives you something the outside world rarely offers: space. Space to think, space to breathe, and space to understand yourself without distractions pulling you in every direction. Most people live in reaction mode. They wake up, rush out, deal with dozens of interactions, absorb countless opinions, and end their day completely drained. Their identity becomes shaped by noise. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. A person who cannot sit with themselves cannot master themselves, and so staying home becomes a powerful training ground, a quiet battlefield, where you learn to conquer your mind before trying to conquer the world. When you're home, the world stops demanding things from you. Nobody is pressuring you to impress, to respond, to perform. It's in this stillness that you begin to see what actually matters. The Stoics called this returning to yourself, a practice of withdrawing from crowds so your mind can reset. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the soul becomes stronger when it retreats into a place of calm. That place doesn't need to be a mountain or a monastery. It can simply be your own room. Staying home also gives you the freedom to examine your thoughts without the influence of others. In public, you're constantly adjusting your behavior, sometimes to fit in, sometimes to impress, sometimes just to avoid conflict. At home, the mask drops. You see yourself clearly. You realize what thoughts belong to you and which ones were implanted by society. This clarity is essential for building a stable identity. Without it, you become a copy of other people instead of the author of your own life. Another powerful Stoic lesson you experience at home is learning to appreciate simplicity. The world pushes luxury, entertainment, and endless stimulation. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Comfort weakens you when you can't live without it. But when you stay home, life naturally becomes simpler. You don't need fancy surroundings or social validation to feel at peace. You begin to feel calm in ordinary moments, making tea, reading a book, cleaning your space. This simplicity strengthens your character because it teaches you that happiness isn't found out there. It's something you build internally. Staying home is also the perfect environment for developing discipline. People think discipline is built in gyms, offices, or difficult environments. But true discipline begins with the small choices you make when no one is watching. Do you get up on time even when you could sleep in? Do you read instead of scrolling your phone? Do you clean your space or let chaos accumulate? These small decisions shape your mind. They prove to you that you can lead yourself. A person who is disciplined at home becomes unstoppable outside. And yet staying home doesn't mean isolating yourself from life. Stoicism is not about hiding. It's about preparing. The wiser you become in solitude, the stronger you become in society. Home becomes your training ground, your mental gym. When you step back into the world, you're calmer, sharper, and more deliberate in your actions. You're no longer controlled by impulse or pressure. You move with purpose. But perhaps the greatest benefit of staying home is rediscovering inner peace. When your environment is quiet, your thoughts slow down. When your mind slows down, your emotions become manageable. You see your fears, frustrations, and anxieties clearly. And once you see them, you can control them. This is the core of Stoicism, mastering your inner world so the outer world cannot shake you. In solitude, you confront yourself. And yes, that can be uncomfortable, but discomfort is where growth lives. Most people can't sit alone with their own thoughts for 5 minutes without reaching for their phone. Staying home forces you to build that muscle. It teaches you to be okay with silence, to be okay with stillness, and eventually to be okay with yourself. When you can enjoy your own company, you become emotionally independent. You no longer chase validation. You no longer fear being left out. You no longer depend on external noise to feel alive. You become your own source of energy. This independence is a superpower in a world addicted to attention and distraction. So staying home is not simply resting. It is choosing to step back so you can step forward stronger. It is choosing stillness so you can think clearly. It is choosing silence so your inner voice can speak. It is choosing discipline over distraction. It is choosing self-mastery over social pressure. And in the quiet of your own space, you discover something powerful. You don't need the world to approve you, entertain you, or validate you. You only need to master the world inside you. If Section 1 explained why staying home is powerful, Section 2 is about how to use that power intentionally. Because not every home is a sanctuary. Not every room naturally brings peace, discipline, or clarity. Most people's homes are filled with noise, clutter, distractions, and habits that drain their energy instead of restoring it. Stoicism teaches that your environment shapes your mind, and your mind shapes your life. So when you learn to shape your home with purpose, it becomes a fortress, protecting your peace, building your discipline, and strengthening your spirit every single day. The Stoics believed deeply in the idea of controlling the controllable. The world outside is unpredictable: people, traffic, problems, expectations, sudden conflicts. But your home is the one place where you can take full responsibility. It can become the physical expression of your inner values. If you treat it with intention, your home becomes a reflection of who you are becoming, not who you used to be. The first step is clearing the noise. Noise isn't just sound. It's anything unnecessary that distracts your mind. Clutter is noise. Toxic people are noise. Constant entertainment is noise. Random notifications are noise. When there's too much noise in your space, your thoughts scatter, your emotions rise, and your focus weakens. A Stoic home, on the other hand, is designed for clarity. It doesn't need to be fancy or expensive. It needs to be organized enough that your mind can breathe the moment you enter. Once the distractions fade, you begin building routines that support your inner growth. This is where your home transforms into a training ground. The Stoics didn't wait for the world to give them peace. They created peace through structure, habits, and self-discipline. Your morning routine, for example, becomes a chance to anchor your mind before the world wakes up. A simple practice like sitting quietly with your thoughts, writing in a journal, or reading a few lines of wisdom can completely shift your mental state for the day. Your home also becomes a place to practice voluntary hardship, a key Stoic principle. This means doing things that are slightly uncomfortable to strengthen your mind, keeping your room cold for a few minutes in the morning, fasting occasionally, or doing focused physical exercise teaches your mind that discomfort is not a threat. When you build toughness in private, the challenges outside no longer intimidate you. But a Stoic home is not only about discipline, it's also about reflection. Modern life rarely gives us time to think. People jump from task to task, message to message, without ever stopping to ask themselves deeper questions. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Is this really who I want to be? Your home becomes the place where these questions finally have space to surface. Keeping a journal, writing down your thoughts, or even sitting in silence for a few minutes each night helps you connect with yourself. This is how clarity is built, not in chaos, but in quiet moments you create intentionally. Inside your home, you also learn to remove emotional clutter. This is the clutter no one can see but everyone feels. Resentment, overthinking, grudges, regrets, unnecessary arguments. These things make your inner world heavy. A Stoic home encourages emotional simplicity. Instead of overreacting, you pause. Instead of holding on to negativity, you let go. Instead of chasing what isn't in your control, you accept and adapt. Home becomes the practice field where emotional discipline turns into a lifestyle. Another powerful aspect of staying home is learning self-sufficiency. The more time you spend alone, the more you realize how much you are capable of doing by yourself. Cooking your meals, cleaning your space, maintaining your routines, all of this builds confidence. You stop depending on others for motivation or direction. You become the kind of person who can rely on themselves in any situation. Finally, your home teaches you contentment. Not the kind that makes you passive, but the kind that makes you appreciate simplicity. You learn that peace doesn't come from traveling far, buying expensive things, or impressing people. It comes from being present. It comes from creating an environment where your mind can rest and your soul can breathe. When your home becomes your fortress, you stop fearing solitude. You stop needing external noise to feel alive. You become stronger, clearer, calmer, and more in control of your own destiny. And that is the true Stoic advantage of staying home. Staying home is not just a habit, it's a transformation. It gradually rewires the way you think, act, and respond to the world. People assume growth happens out there through travel, experiences, or social interactions, but the deepest growth happens in stillness. Stoics understood that solitude reveals truths about you that noise can never show. Section 3 explores how the decision to stay home consistently changes your identity from the inside out, making you stronger, wiser, and emotionally unshakable. The first change is mental clarity. When you're constantly outside, You're absorbing information, opinions, and emotions that aren't yours. It's like carrying weights you didn't choose. At home, those weights fall away. Your mind finally has a chance to process, reflect, and organize itself. You begin to distinguish between what truly matters and what just drains your energy. This clarity influences everything from your decisions to your relationships or to the goals you set for your life. Next comes emotional stability. Outside, you're exposed to unpredictable situations, rude people, stressful environments, unnecessary drama, and social pressure. These things constantly trigger emotional reactions. But when you give yourself space at home, your emotional system resets. You learn to respond instead of react. You understand your triggers. You become calm by default. Stoics believe that calmness is not an accident. It's a practiced skill. And home is where this skill is sharpened every day. You also develop inner confidence, not the loud, showy type, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can stand on your own. When you spend more time alone, you stop seeking approval. You're not constantly comparing yourself to others. You don't need an audience to feel worthy. This independence makes you dangerous in the best way. A person who needs nothing from the world is the hardest to manipulate, distract, or control. Another transformation is self-awareness. Most people walk through life without understanding themselves, their strengths, weaknesses, triggers, desires, and patterns. Home gives you the environment to observe yourself honestly. You start to notice your habits, your thoughts, your behaviors. You see what brings you peace and what brings you stress. This awareness becomes a powerful tool. You stop living blindly. You start making choices based on clarity, not autopilot. Staying home also builds discipline, one of the core virtues of Stoicism. When you're outside, everything is designed to pull your attention away. Advertising, crowds, noise, entertainment, temptation. Inside your home, you have control. You decide whether to build habits or break them. You decide what you consume. You decide how your time is used. And when you prove to yourself that you can stay consistent without external pressure, you develop discipline that carries into every area of life. Another profound change is learning to enjoy your own company. Many people avoid being alone because silence exposes them to their fears, insecurities, and unresolved emotions. But Stoics taught that the person who enjoys solitude becomes unbeatable. Home becomes the space where you learn to be your own friend, your own motivator, your own advisor. You stop running from yourself. You start trusting yourself. And once you find peace within, you no longer fear losing anything outside. Staying home also strengthens your decision-making power. When your mind is calm and uncluttered, your choices become sharper. You no longer make decisions based on impulse or pressure. You think things through. You evaluate consequences. You act with intention. This makes your life more stable, your goals more achievable, and your future more predictable. Your decisions stop being emotional reactions and become strategic moves. One of the most overlooked transformations is energy protection. Outside environments drain you, sometimes emotionally, sometimes mentally, sometimes physically. At home, you conserve energy instead of wasting it. You choose where your energy goes. You choose who gets access to you. And because your energy isn't scattered everywhere, you perform better in the moments that truly matter. Finally, staying home teaches you contentment and gratitude, two qualities Stoics deeply valued. You begin appreciating simple things, a clean room, a peaceful evening, a warm meal, your own company. You realize happiness does not require extravagance. It requires presence. It requires awareness. It requires a quiet heart. This contentment is not stagnation. It's strength. Because when you're grateful for small things, no one can take your peace away. In the end, staying home turns you into someone the world cannot easily shake. You become grounded, disciplined, calm, self-aware, and emotionally independent. You stop living for external validation. You start living for inner mastery. And once you've built that foundation inside your home, you can walk into any situation with confidence, because you know exactly who you are, what you stand for, and what you no longer allow into your life. Staying home is not about hiding from life, it's about preparing for it more intelligently. People often misunderstand solitude, assuming it weakens your social skills, makes you out of touch, or limits your experiences. But in reality, the opposite is true. When used intentionally, staying home equips you with mental strength, emotional resilience, and clarity that most people never develop. The Stoics believed that the person who trains in private becomes unbeatable in public. This section explores how staying home silently builds the strength that turns you into a powerful presence wherever you go. The first way it prepares you is through mental discipline. Outside, you don't always have control. You can't control other people. You can't control noise. You can't control interruptions. But at home, you build the ability to stay focused for long periods, sharpen your mind, and train your attention. When you step outside after practicing this, you're far more stable than the average person. You're not easily distracted. You're not overwhelmed by chaos. You think clearly, even in noisy environments, because you have trained your mind in stillness. Secondly, staying home helps you develop emotional mastery. Real emotional strength isn't built during arguments or crises. It's built in the moments when you're alone and reflecting. When you stay home, you're not forced to react constantly. You have space to process your feelings, understand your triggers, and become comfortable with your own emotional landscape. This makes you incredibly calm around others. You don't take things personally. You don't get dragged into drama. You respond with logic instead of impulse. People notice this. They feel you're calm. They trust your presence because you're not chaotic like everyone else. Another powerful way home prepares you for life is by giving you time to build skills that actually matter. Outside, your time is usually consumed by travel, socializing, noise, or distractions. At home, every hour can be invested into something meaningful. Reading, learning, practicing, working on your craft, building a business, strengthening your body, or improving your discipline. Most of the world wastes their free time. You, on the other hand, can dedicate it to growth, and that difference becomes your advantage. 1 year of focused time at home can put you 5 years ahead of others who waste their days in distractions. Staying home also builds self-control, something Stoics valued more than almost anything. When you're alone, you face the truth of your habits. You see where you lack discipline. You confront your weaknesses honestly, and because there is no external pressure, every good choice you make comes from internal strength. When you prove to yourself that you can lead your own mind, you become unstoppable outside. You're no longer a slave to impulses, cravings, or emotional reactions. You move with intention. Another major preparation staying home gives you is social clarity. When you spend more time alone, you no longer tolerate low-quality relationships. You stop trying to impress everyone. You stop entertaining people who drain your energy. You see clearly which relationships are genuine and which are built on convenience, gossip, or drama. This means that when you do step out into the world, your circle becomes stronger, healthier, and more aligned with your values. The Stoics always warned against the wrong company, and solitude teaches you exactly who is worth your time. Spending intentional time at home also strengthens your resilience. When you learn to handle boredom, quiet moments, and emotional discomfort alone, you become mentally tough. You don't panic when situations get quiet. You don't feel lost when plans change. You don't crumble when people leave. You've learned to rely on yourself. This resilience is pure power in a world where most people panic if they're left alone for 5 minutes. Home also prepares you through reflection and self-accountability. When you're constantly surrounded by people, it's easy to avoid examining your life. But when you're alone, you're forced to face your choices. You reflect on your goals, your mistakes, your strengths, and your direction. This creates a level of self-awareness that people who fear solitude never develop. You walk into any situation with a deeper understanding of who you are, and that makes your presence more grounded and confident. Finally, staying home prepares you for the world by building inner peace. When your mind is calm, your decisions are clearer. When your heart is settled, your reactions are measured. When your soul is at peace, the world cannot shake you. People outside are constantly rushing, stressed, and overwhelmed. But you walk differently. You move with intention. You speak with clarity. You act with purpose. You are not controlled by chaos because you have learned to master your inner world. In the end, staying home doesn't isolate you. It elevates you. It turns you into someone who stands out effortlessly, someone who is calm in chaos, stable in uncertainty, wise in conflict, and powerful in silence. And that is why staying home isn't running away from life. It's preparing for it better than anyone else.